Oh!
This is very inconsistent. Like, how am I supposed to know what sound is gonna come out of this thing? There might be a certain degree of bias going into this review, full disclosure. I was a huge fan of Wonder Woman, the first film with Gal Gadot. I went in with actually very low expectations because I saw the trailer and I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be awful. And then I watched it, and I watched it with one of Wonder Woman's stunt doubles also at YouTube Space LA. And man, I love that movie. It was amazing.
I wasn't jealous because I was sitting in the parking lot just, you know, editing on my laptop while this guy got to go watch it early.
Yeah, I couldn't bring...
And he was so unexcited about it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I was desperate to go. And then he comes out and he's like, oh my God, I love this movie. And I'm like...
Yeah, it's like, the thing about it is, like I said, I went in with extremely low expectations. I had no idea I was gonna come out loving the film.
Yeah.
And so much so that I actually wear this shirt to the gym because I like to wear shirts that imbue strength. And to me, Wonder Woman imbues an incredible amount of strength.
Yes.
And so I wear it proudly. I'm like, you know, fuck it. I will wear my Wonder Woman t-shirt. I don't give a damn. I don't care. You all can look at me. I'm pumping iron wearing Wonder Woman's shirt. So anyway, there's obviously a lot of expectation going into Wonder Woman 1984. And like any film with a lot of expectation, you get some things that are, oh no, my little armband is falling off. Damn it. I hope it would make it at least 10 minutes. Like any film with a lot of expectation, you have some things that are disappointing and some things that are like pleasant surprises, right? And so, for example, like going into the film, I was apprehensive about Kristen Wiig, the cheetah, and the visual effects there, because in the trailer it looked a little bit questionable. I wasn't sure about it, and then in the film I was pleasantly surprised. I'm like, oh, that looks really good.
Yeah, they did a really great job fixing it up.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, but like one of the minor disappointments of the film was the movie.
Okay, I feel like it's unfair to just, you know, go in there and be like, the disappointment was the movie. Yeah. There were definitely things.
I know. I'm obviously being a little bit facetious. I'm being a little bit facetious. So let me go off on one for just a second, because I love the Wonder Woman character. I love what they've done with it. I like Gal Gadot in this role because before Wonder Woman, I didn't like her, and then this movie made me like her, and she made me appreciate Wonder Woman even more. So let's try to keep this spoiler free for the beginning. And I'll let you know when we go into spoilers. But like the first, I'd say 10 minutes of the movie, I was like, oh, this is really cool. I'm really getting into this. You know, they take you back in time a little bit and get you up to speed again with Wonder Woman and her roots, which is a cool idea.
And it was like a really cool whole sequence in the beginning.
Exactly.
Like that was so awesome.
Right, and then so this takes place decades after the first film, and you get up to speed, you're in 1984, and you're getting familiar with all the tropes of the 80s and whatnot, and you get introduced to Wonder Woman in the most expected of ways. And that was cool. It was cheesy, but it was cool. And I was like, well, that's a fun way to kick off the movie. It's cheesy, and that's just the beginning, just to establish this is like the 80s. Remember the 80s movies? Come to find out, the way the action was set up in the beginning, it speaks to the action through the rest of the film, and it doesn't really get a whole lot better. And the action is one of the things I really appreciated about the first movie.
Yes.
The action was amazing in the first movie. I was like blown away, my socks knocked off from the first film because it was executed so fantastically. And here, it felt like it came before the first movie in terms of like, you know, if you're amping up like Fast and Furious, right? Like with each installment, it gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
It feels like this should have come before the first film.
Yeah, I mean, even for me, as someone who has definitely grown to appreciate good action now that I've been hanging out with you for a while, I'm still not up there with the, you know, being knowledgeable about what good action should look like.
Right.
But there were moments where I was watching it and watching the action play out, and I was just like, oh, this is a little bit disappointing. Like, it should have been cooler. It just looked like a bunch of VFX.
Right. One of the big draws, obviously, was Chris Pine, you know, bringing him back. And a big question we have going into the film is how do they explain this? And I'm not going to spoil how it works, you know, the magic of the movie and whatnot. Yeah. But I was excited to see him back, I'm not gonna lie, and that was a big draw for me because I think that their dynamic is just wonderful.
Yes.
And the fish out of water element, just like in Wonder Woman, the fish out of water element for Chris Pine, I thought was actually kind of cool.
It was very sweet.
You know, the shoe's on the other foot now. And I thought that was neat. And I just think that the film failed to focus more on that relationship and Wonder Woman as a whole, because it felt like the film dedicated a lot of time to the villain or villains of the film. And I get it because I guess there were complaints about the first movie where the villain was underdeveloped. I didn't personally have that issue. I know you voiced that where it's like he was just sort of in the background and then he just shows up. But like the way they explained it, he was almost like Voldemort. It's like it made sense. Like he was in the background pulling the strings. So it made sense that he would just kind of show up at the end of the movie the way he does, right? Like the mask comes off. I didn't mind actually.
But that was because the movie itself was so strong that you forgave it that, at least for me.
Sure.
I was like, that's fine. I enjoy 90% of this movie, and therefore it gets an A+.
Right. I can't remember that actor's name, but he was in Dragonheart. He's been around a long time.
Yeah.
And that particular actor was just so strong that it worked anyway when he pulled the mask off, so to speak, right? And in this film, they decided to spend a lot more time developing the villains, and I was like, I don't care. I don't care that much about spending this much time with the villains, and the way the villains, what they became by the second, third act of the movie, I'm like, I don't really care that much. Like, Pedro Pascal was cool, and there were moments in there where I'm like, what if this really did happen? That'd be kind of cool. Yeah. Like, that did go through my mind. Like, because I used to be a big conspiracy theorist and wonder about, like, secret societies and stuff like that and how all that stuff plays out. And there's plenty of stuff on Netflix for you if you're into that stuff, because I watched it. And, there was some stuff that felt like it was playing out conspiratorial like that, like the upper echelons of society, the White House and, politicians and people who control the world and whatnot. That was a neat element. But what it all culminates in was a big letdown for me. Because especially coming off Wonder Woman, the first film, I'm like, that film just ups the ante all the way to the end. Yeah. And this one was sort of like a quiet goodbye. And that's the easiest way I can explain it without giving anything away. Afterwards, I got a text message from one of my best friends who was telling me about some of the racial overtones of the movie, or undertones. I don't know which word it is anymore. Overtones, undertones. Basically, there's like racist aspects to the movie. And I for me, if you're one of those people who thought that Wonder Woman 84 was racist, I personally, it was completely eclipsed by the things I didn't like about the movie. So I couldn't even pay attention to that. Now, were there things that I liked about the film? Yeah, it made me laugh. But
I think that most of that stuff, the good stuff, was with Diana and Steve. And that's the relationship that we care about. It definitely made me emotional. Yeah. I loved when he came back. I was kind of like, how are they gonna pull this off? And then, okay, fine, they kind of wrote it in. I'm happy, because like Chris Pine rocks, and then he just kind of brought the humor in the movie, which for the first movie, humor played such a huge part in it. Yes, there were serious moments, it was serious, but there was a lot of humor underneath it, and there were lots of great, funny characters in the ensemble. Yeah. And then here, it felt like they tried to do that in the beginning a little bit, and that was really fun, and it was delightful, and it was cute. And then all of a sudden, it was like, now it's so serious. I'm like, wait, what? Although I will say, the message that they were trying to put across at the end about hope. Yeah. I feel like that's very timely right now.
I agree with you.
And it was quite lovely, but not enough to kind of save the whole movie.
Well, another positive aspect of the film, I would say, is generally speaking, the visual effects looked really good, especially Kristen Wiig as Cheetah. I was actually very impressed with that, especially coming off of the trailer. I was watching it ready to be judgmental as hell, and I watched it and I go, oh, actually it looks really decent. She looked much better in the final product than she did in the trailer. When Wonder Woman's flying through the sky and stuff like that, that stuff looked really good to me. I mean, I don't know, maybe that's something we've tackled as humans in visual effects for a long time. There was a moment shown in the trailer where she flips this truck over. That looked a little bit cartoony, but I still liked the moment. I thought the idea was really cool. But the action choreography in general, whether you're dealing with vehicles or guns or fight scenes, none of it measured up to the first movie, in my humble opinion. That's my feeling about it.
Yeah, it's like they didn't really take too much advantage of the potential coolness. Yeah. Although I will say that the very first part in the flashback, that had some really cool action.
Sure.
I thought they did a great job with that.
Another thing that was sorely lacking for me personally was the theme song. I was like, where's the goddamn theme song? I want the guitar riff. Yeah, I want that. It needs to be there, and it wasn't there for most of the film. And I'm like, it feels akin to playing a Zelda game, and it's like, play the damn Zelda theme song. That's what we're here for. I hate to keep comparing it to the first film, but that first movie had so much heart.
Yes.
And I just didn't get that here.
Yeah, I
you know?
think that's what was sorely lacking, was
Yeah.
just the heart. I think that the actors involved were all really great, and individually, like they did their roles well.
Yeah.
But I think just overall, somehow it just felt a little bit hollow. Even though I could tell that they were really giving everything.
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal and Kristen Wiig,
yeah.
you know, they were really just trying to be whole people, whole characters, and you could kind of see that. But I don't know what it was about maybe just the whole story or how it was put together. It just kind of.
Yeah.
It didn't really work so well.
I do agree with you, though, about the message at the very, just as a whole. I think the message of the movie being hope is actually really nice, and it is timely. And I got that while watching the film. I'm like, this makes a lot of sense for the time, everything humanity is going through.
Yeah.
Collectively, I like the message. If only everything leading up to that message was just as strong as the message itself. Spoilers! Okay, so the ending, can we talk about that first and foremost? The stuff with Pedro Pascal and the wind tunnel coming out of his body that kept her from getting to him.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of had to suspend disbelief and just be like, okay, so his superpower, apart from granting wishes, is like creating a vortex that the super strong and powerful Wonder Woman cannot break through to get to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would imagine there's some kind of magical element that fused that crystal that Pedro Pascal absorbed into his body, and that is what is delivering that kind of force at her. I'm sure there's some kind of comic book explanation for it, but I didn't like it. Like, it just felt weak and hollow, especially coming off of if there was a way to maybe reverse the fight scenes, which wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, because like the first film did the same thing where you had the front bad guy,
Yeah.
who's like the veneer,
Yeah.
and then you had the real bad guy. And so they wanted to do the same thing here, but just visually, it made less sense. Because you had the cheetah fight in the outdoors of this, like, whatever that was. It was like a secret bunker area or something,
Yeah.
right? Having that fight scene outdoors should have been the final fight, in my opinion, because it's more epic. Having this wind tunnel sequence of her going, no, and then she's got the little lasso on him, like, surprise. That wasn't as good of a way to close out the movie, because like the first one closes out on this skadoosh moment where she annihilates the bad guy. It's like kablamo.
Yeah.
And this one like ends with her quietly in tears on the floor. Like, what the hell?
Well, like, it was supposed to be moving,
It
you
wasn't.
know?
It was not moving. I get it. It was, you know what
It was
it felt?
supposed to be.
It felt like the end of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Wow.
That's literally what I felt like it was akin to. I'm like, okay, if you're going for just like handball, cheese fist, then fine, you know? Then so be it. The first Wonder Woman had cheesy moments, but it had so much heart that it worked.
Yeah.
This was just as cheesy with zero heart, so it didn't work. That's my feeling anyway. I'm sorry if I'm being hard on the movie. I went in wanting to love the experience, and I was still rooting for it like an hour and a half in. I'm
Yeah.
like, damn, this movie's long, but like I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna love this. The ending is surely gonna fix all of this. And I got there and I just was like, meh.
The fight scene with Cheetah was also just underwhelming because, I mean, it was cool, don't get me wrong, but it was so short.
Yes,
Like-
it was short. I think the movie could have been saved by a better ending.
Yes.
Because like then everything else would have been forgivable. But like as it is, because the ending was weak, I have no reason to revisit this movie. There's nothing in the film where I'm like, I want to go back and watch that scene again.
I would just go back and watch Gal Gadot and Chris Pine do cute stuff in the 80s.
That's like 15
about-
minutes of movie.
Yeah, that's about it.
That's really-
I really liked that stuff though. I thought that was really cute. It's like, why couldn't we have more cuteness
Yeah.
in the movie, just like in the first one? And it was long.
It was a long movie, much like this review. You guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Hopefully you enjoyed some of that. I'm Jaby Koay. This is
ACHARA KIRK.
Peace out.